Robert Harrison stood by the tall windows of his elegant home, watching another nanny hurry down the driveway. That made 17 in 6 months. 17 capable women who couldn't last even a full day with his 3 boys. He ran a hand through his dark hair and loosened his tie. At 42, he'd built a successful investment firm from nothing. He could negotiate million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. But raising 3 energetic 7-year-old boys alone? That was proving to be his greatest challenge. The triplets, Michael, Christopher, and Benjamin, weren't bad children. Not really. They were just testing. Always testing. Testing boundaries, testing patience, testing every person who walked through that door. And Robert knew why. They were still looking for their mother in every woman's face, still hoping she'd come back, even though she'd left 2 years ago and never looked back. The sound of small feet thundering down the hallway pulled him from his thoughts. "Dad, did we scare another one away?" Michael asked, his brown eyes wide with something that looked like guilt but also a little pride. "Boys, we need to talk," Robert said quietly, kneeling down to their level. "This can't keep happening." But before he could say more, the doorbell rang. Claire Donovan stood on the front steps, her worn canvas bag clutched in both hands. At 38, she'd learned that life rarely went according to plan. She'd raised her daughter Emma alone for 15 years, working 2 jobs and putting herself through night school to become a certified child development specialist. Emma was away at college now, and for the first time in years, Claire's small apartment felt too quiet. When she saw the advertisement for a live-in nanny position, something stirred in her heart. She missed the chaos of raising a child. She missed being needed. The door opened, and there stood a tall man with tired eyes and 3 identical boys peeking out from behind him. "Mr. Harrison? I'm Claire Donovan. I'm here about the nanny position." Robert looked at her carefully. She wasn't like the others. There was something calm about her, something steady. Her blonde hair was pulled back simply, and she wore a gentle smile that reached her eyes. "I should be honest with you," Robert said. "You'd be the 18th person to interview. The others, well, they didn't stay long." "I read between the lines of your advertisement," Claire said softly. "You're not looking for someone who can manage a schedule. You're looking for someone who can love 3 hurting little boys." Robert felt something catch in his chest. No one had said it quite like that before. Claire started the next morning. She didn't arrive with rules or charts or strict schedules. She arrived with chocolate chip cookie dough and an old photo album. "Before we do anything else," she said, sitting at the kitchen table with the boys, "I want to show you my daughter when she was about your age." The triplets gathered around cautiously. They'd planned their usual tricks, putting salt in the sugar bowl, hiding her car keys, releasing frogs in the bathroom. But something about this woman was different. "This is Emma," Claire said, pointing to a photo of a little girl with missing front teeth. She went through a phase where she only wanted to wear her Halloween costume. "For 4 months straight, I had a tiny vampire going to school every day," Christopher giggled. It was the first real laugh Robert had heard from him in weeks. "Boys can be tricky," Claire continued, "but I've learned something important. When children act out, they're usually not being bad. They're just trying to say something they don't have words for." Benjamin, the quietest of the 3, looked up at her. "What are we trying to say?" Claire met his eyes with such kindness that Robert, watching from the doorway, felt his throat tighten. "I think you're saying you miss your mom," Claire said gently. "And that's okay. That's really, really okay." The days turned into weeks. Claire didn't try to replace what the boys had lost. She simply showed up every single day with patience and understanding. When Michael got frustrated with his homework and threw his pencil, she didn't scold him. She sat down beside him and said, "Sometimes things feel too hard, don't they? Want to take a walk around the garden and try again in 10 minutes? When Christopher woke up from a nightmare, she was there with warm milk and a soft blanket, humming the same lullaby she'd once sung to Emma. When Benjamin asked, "Why did our mom leave?" Claire didn't give him empty platitudes. She said, "Sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt the people who love them. It's not fair, and it's not your fault. Not ever." Robert watched all of this from the margins of his own life. He saw his son slowly transform. The pranks stopped. The testing stopped. In their place came laughter, came conversation, came homework spread across the kitchen table while Claire stirred pasta sauce and asked about their day. One evening, he found her in the living room, teaching all three boys to knit. Their attempts were clumsy and tangled, but they were focused, peaceful. "My grandmother taught me this," Claire was saying. "She always said that when your hands are busy making something, your heart settles down." "What are we making?" Michael asked. "Scarves for the shelter downtown. There are people who get cold, too, and don't have warm homes like this one." Robert leaned against the doorframe, something warm spreading through his chest. This woman wasn't just caring for his children. She was teaching them how to care for others. 3 months passed. The house felt different now, fuller, warmer, alive with the kind of joy Robert had forgotten was possible. One Saturday morning, he found Claire in the kitchen, packing a picnic basket. "The boys asked if we could all go to the park today," she said. "I hope that's all right. You work so hard during the week, and I thought, well, they'd love to have their dad join us." Robert realized he couldn't remember the last time he'd simply played with his sons. Work had consumed him, partly because it was easier than facing the emptiness at home. "I'd like that," he said quietly. At the park, Robert watched Claire push the boys on swings, her laughter mixing with theirs. He watched her crouch down to examine a caterpillar with Christopher, explaining its life cycle with the same wonder she might use for a miracle. He watched her sit on a bench with Benjamin, who wasn't feeling well, rubbing his back in slow circles while the other two played. "She's special, Dad," Michael said, appearing at his side. "Are you going to let her leave like the others?" "What do you mean, buddy?" "I heard you tell Grandma on the phone that she was just temporary. But she doesn't feel temporary. She feels like she belongs here." That night, after the boys were in bed, Robert found Claire on the back porch, looking up at the stars. "They asked me today if I was going to leave," she said softly. "I didn't know what to tell them." Robert sat down beside her. "What do you want to tell them?" Claire was quiet for a long moment. "When Emma left for college, I felt lost. I'd spent so many years being a mother that I didn't know who I was without that purpose. But these past few months, Robert, your boys have given me back something I thought I'd lost. They've reminded me that love doesn't run out just because your own child grows up. There's always room for more." "They love you," Robert said. "And not because you're hired help. Because you see them, really see them." "I see you too," Claire said gently, meeting his eyes. A good man trying to be both parents at once. Carrying more than anyone should have to carry alone. Something shifted between them in that moment. Not romance, not yet. But recognition. Two people who'd been through hard seasons, who'd learned that strength sometimes looks like asking for help. And that family isn't always what you start with, but what you build. 6 months later, Robert sat in his study, looking at paperwork his attorney had prepared. He'd asked Claire to join him. "I know this is unconventional," he said, his voice uncertain in a way it rarely was. "But I'd like to make this permanent, not just the job." "Maybe not, but you deserve it. You've given my boys back their childhood. You've given me back my sons. And you've shown all of us that families can heal, that broken things can become whole again if someone's willing to be patient and kind." The boys burst into the room then, unable to wait any longer. "Did you ask her? Is she staying forever?" Christopher demanded. Claire laughed, pulling all three of them into a hug. "Forever is a big word, sweethearts. But how about we start with tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that?" "That's just forever in slow motion," Benjamin said wisely, and everyone laughed. Years would pass. Emma would come home from college and find 3 little brothers who adored her. The boys would grow into young men who knew how to be gentle, how to be patient, how to see people's hearts. And Robert and Claire, they'd eventually find their own kind of